Okay, I want to start off with a little survey. I would like to hear from the audience, what do you think is the single largest source of plastic entering the oceans? Speak it out. What do you think? What'd you say? Not rivers. What single source of plastic? Water bottles? No, not quite. Okay. Anybody else with a single source? Styrofoam? Styrofoam is a foam cup. It is not a foam cup. Styrofoam is blue. I used to work for Dow Chemical. You can't drink from a styrofoam cup. It's blue styrofoam. Anyways, another one. Anybody else? Fishing gear. Fishing gear is actually number 3. Plastic bags. No, it doesn't even make the list. All right. The single source of plastics entering the oceans is from your clothing. When you wash your clothes, the polyester that comes off. Any guess at number 2? Tires on your car. It degrades and comes off and enters the ocean. Fishing gear is actually number 3. And then the list continues on from there. Most people don't realize that the single largest source of plastics entering the ocean is from clothing. Your clothes wear out. Anyways, so where this information came from is from an author out there. His name is Chris Darmett. And if you get a chance, look him up on LinkedIn, look him up on Google. He wrote a book called The Plastics Paradox. And he goes out and debunks a lot of urban myths, a lot of incorrect information. Whatever he finds scientifically backed, supported, peer-reviewed papers to support whatever his opinions are. Okay, my next question. Have you ever heard of Milo Crease? Have you heard the statement that there's more than 500 million straws used in the United States every day? Have you heard that one? Well, that came from Milo. Milo was 9 years old when he came out with that statement. And the reason why he did is he made an observation of when he was at a fast food restaurant that by default, the restaurants gave the customers straws. And he thought, you know what, this isn't right. It should be that the restaurants give people straws at the request of the client. So he did a science fair project. And he couldn't find information to back up the number of straws that were produced in the United States every year. He made it up. He made up the figure of 500 million. There are a significant number of states now that ban the use of straws because of a 9-year-old's science fair project. That is in Chris's book as well. So one of my favorite expressions is you cannot bring data to an emotional argument. And Milo Crease is a really good example of an emotional argument. Okay, so why is Shell here talking about sustainability and chemicals? We're a big oil company. We used to be a big oil company. Now we really focus on goal to zero, that by 2060 we're bound to determine to be net zero. So what you have up on the screen right now is a plant that I'm affiliated with. I've been a polymer chemist or scientist most of my career. And I joined Shell a little over 5 years ago. And this particular site here is in northwest Pennsylvania, just northwest of Pittsburgh itself. It used to be a zinc smelter. That's what it looked like a few years ago. This is what the site looks like today. It contains 2 of the world's largest polyethylene reactors. It's commonly called the cracker plant, and I was actually in a grocery store in Beaver Falls where I live, and actually had someone come up to me and said, you know what, that's a really big plant. What kind of crackers do you make? Honestly, they did ask me that. But this particular facility here is a fully integrated facility. We have a cogen plant, and hopefully I can find... We have a cogen plant that's located over here, so we generate electricity. That replaces a coal-fired generating station that was further up the Ohio River. The Ohio River is just over here. So there used to be a coal-fired generating station up in this region here. Coal-fired generating station replaced by cogen. We also have ethylene crackers here, so we take ethane. In that geographic region, the natural gas in the ground is called wet, and it contains too much ethane. We can't send it out to the consumer, so what would have happened in the past, it would have just been flared, it would have been burned, or released to the environment. We take that ethane, we crack it into ethylene, and we send it over to these 3 reactors over here. We have 2 unipole gas phase reactors. They're the 2 largest ones in the world. And the third one is a slurry loop. Combined together, this facility produces 3.5 billion pounds per year of polyethylene going into various market segments. My area of specialty is I work with flexible films in food packaging applications, but I've been working in sustainability for the last number of years. It's a plant, and it has started up already as of about October. So why sustainability? So the big part of sustainability is the goals that we've all seen published quite significantly in that last number of years. That 55% reduction in the carbon dioxide emissions by 2030, and what China's announcing is down to 0 by 2060. So sustainability and Shell itself, there's 3 different areas that we're going to focus on here. So the Paris Agreement is the big part of this. They got together and made an agreement that by, I can't read the year on here, but it'll be a 2 degrees Celsius maximum increase in temperature with a real target of 1.5. So a lot of things that we've been doing at Shell is really trying to focus around trying to meet those goals, changing the way we use products and produce products. And through this graph here, you can see a number of different areas and targets where we have. And that target is to half the absolute emissions of what we are going to produce. And there's 3 different, whoops, wrong slide, wrong way. And there's 3 different, or a bunch of different areas that we're trying to focus on that. Nature-based solutions, carbon capture, that's sequestering, and I'll get into that a little bit. Assets, technology. So there's a few different areas that we're really trying to focus on, trying to get that carbon emissions and overall energy reduction towards net zero. And when we focus on our climate targets themselves, we can see that by 2030, we want a 50% reduction in the carbon dioxide that's being produced. Shell Chemicals' approach, the way we're going to approach this out in the marketplace, is carbon dioxide intensity. We've actually developed technology where we can go out and capture carbon dioxide. Much like being an oil exploration company, the technology that's used to find oil is exactly the same as it is to find areas where we can take carbon dioxide and sequester it underground. Let me use an example of the Pittsburgh area. We've developed technology that we can capture all of the carbon dioxide produced by the industries in that location, and we can sequester it underground indefinitely. We can capture 200 years worth of carbon dioxide and sequester that underground. The technology exists today to do that. In fact, it's already being done up in northern Canada, in northern Alberta, where we've already taken more than 5 million tons of carbon dioxide and sequestered it underground indefinitely. On the right-hand side is enabling the circular economy, and that's the area that I'm very much involved with, and that is taking waste plastic and using a conversion process, advanced technology, and converting it into a pyrolysis oil that is then cracked. We then use the carbon certificates through mass balance and produce polyethylene again out of it at the Pennsylvania plant that I showed you. So make, offer, and champion. So make side of it is energy efficiency, leverage, energy options, and carbon sequestering and capture that I had talked about. Offer various things to our customers to work with them to help them reduce their overall energy consumption. And then finally on the right-hand side, champion. And that's the Alliance for End Plastic Waste. Partnerships with NGOs, with brand label companies, as well as converters out there. We're actively involved in all of those market segments to help them either from supplying them hydrogen for overall energy usage or a more circular polyethylene coming out of our polyethylene plant that's in Pennsylvania. So with regard to the overall reduction in energy and carbon dioxide usage or production, we're replacing our ethylene reactors over in Europe to a much more energy efficient one that will drop down the production of CO2 by about 10%. It doesn't sound like very much, but when you look at the actual numbers of kilotons, it's rather substantial. Again, a picture of our polyethylene facility. I had mentioned that we replaced a coal-fired generating station that was upriver. We also have a very unique facility here in that the tail gas that's produced off of our crackers, we actually put back into the process instead of just burning it or releasing it to the environment like what most of the other companies in the Gulf area does. We actually put it right back into our process and use it as a fuel. We're also producing the world's largest hydrogen production facility over in Europe, and that hydrogen will be used for a number of different applications to help power industry, help power customers that we work with in that area by providing them an energy source. Also on-road vehicles, hydrogen fuel cells or hydrogen stations, using that as a fuel for the internal combustion engine. Solar cells, we're involved in solar cells. We're also involved in windmills. A project that I've been working on recently is trying to effectively recycle windmill blades that come out of some of our own facilities. It's a major challenge. And then developing ethylene cracking technology. We're doing this in conjunction with Dow Chemical and trying to convert over to electric furnaces versus gas-powered furnaces. They take a fair bit of heat to get them going, but once they're up and operational, those furnaces are exothermic and actually generate heat, but just trying to get them up takes a tremendous amount of energy to do that. We're also working with Linde and working to develop an exclusive collaboration on ethane oxidative dehydrogenation technology to really improve the overall energy efficiency. So we're not just an oil company, but we're primarily an energy company, and we're looking at it from many different avenues. We talked about Enerchem and being part of that. That's actually us, being done up in Varennes, Quebec, and it originally started off by taking waste forest products and converting that, and so we're actually involved in quite a few different areas. I mentioned about the CO2 storage and the 5 million tons being done up in northern Canada. Into the plastics recycling area, which is near and dear to my heart. Shell announced that by 2025 we're going to advance recycle 1 million tons of waste plastic. That's a hard-to-use waste plastic, primarily films, the flexible film market segment, and it's split up geographically into 3 different segments. So Europe is responsible for a third of that, the United States is a third, and Asia Pacific is also a third of that. In the United States, we're a long ways along on meeting those targets. You've not heard much about Shell in the advanced recycling space and what's being done. We're very quiet about it. We'd rather do it than talk about it, even though you did toot our horn a little bit, which I appreciate. We do have an announcement that with Blue Alp we have a relationship, and you'll see in the press that in the last few months we have an announcement with 3 Point Energy, Altera, and in the building of a facility down near Norco, Louisiana. We're also working with 3 Point to build a facility in Hebron, Ohio, and those two together will produce close to 200 kilotons per year of pyrolysis oil. The Hebron, Ohio will be for about this time next year, and the facility down in Norco, Louisiana will be 2025, late or early 2026. We have a few more announcements, but again, we would rather do it than talk about it versus making all these great grandiose claims. We're already taking tens of thousands of gallons of oil today. We have a long-term relationship with Nexus out of Atlanta, in which we've been taking oil from them, and also Altera up in Akron, Ohio. We're also doing a lot of work in alternative feedstocks. That's the biofeedstocks, and that's what we talked about briefly was with the Enerchem. And about 2.8 million tons of CO2 emissions coming from that feed source itself. And again, back to the 1 million tons of waste plastic feedstock. And we have a team that's growing rather significantly here in the U.S. to develop that technology. The key thing is trying to find that feedstock. And we're swimming in plastics all over the place, but the challenge is getting that plastic in a form and quality that it can be used for this type of process. It's not easy, and it's very dispersed out there, and we're trying to compete with very low tipping rates. How chemical recycling works, it's more commonly called pyrolysis. So you heat it up in the absence of oxygen, and it thermally decomposes down to a whole series of molecular weight carbons. And we can take those oils, ship them down to our refinery at Norco, Louisiana, and convert. Once it's cracked at that refinery, we're then going to be use a mass balance approach. Our total infrastructure right now is certified through ISCC Plus, and we can assign those carbon certificates to our polyethylene plant and produce a circular polyethylene for the customers that want food grade applications. Mechanical recycling right now is great. That's the first priority, the first area that we want to approach. However, the challenge is trying to get food grade quality material into that particular end use application. Enabling lower carbon footprints with certified renewable chemicals. It's always a constant strive with us. We have many multiple organizations inside of Shell that work together synergistically to try to meet that same common goal as I show up on the slide here. Help offset emissions through the value chain, and we work all the way through from our valuable customers right through conversion into products, and then the final use, and then reclamation of that back through the stream. And again, the partnerships are very important. The NGOs, the converters, the brand owners, etc. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're going to go to a few quick questions because we're just about over. But before we go to questions, I'd like everyone to give a round of applause to Jean and to this great panel. And another round of applause to all the SWIX team who have been here helping us throughout this whole conference so far. Thank you, guys. All right, do we have any questions?
This question's for Mark. What do your customers do with the byproduct ash from your fuel?
I'm so glad you. Oh my goodness. After much further ado, to get the microphone working, I'm so glad you asked that question because you just nailed exactly one of the things that I neglected to say. I try to say a lot when I talk about the company. Here's what happens to the ash. If it's used in a cement plant, and I will say, I think we can all say this, there are 4 very major cement companies located here in Florida, 4 of the largest cement manufacturers in the world. I'm in touch with all 4 of them. I have sold our fuel to 3 out of 4 of them. I intend to sell to the 4th in the near future, and that discussion's going on. And the great news is that in a cement plant, 100% of the ash from our product is folded back into the cement product. There is no ash. So we are truly a zero waste. I'm so glad you asked this question because that is the final stop on the train of a true zero waste initiative, right? We're taking material that would have gone in the landfill and we're not letting it happen. We are doing landfill diversion, right? And so then we have this product and it goes into a plant and it gets used. And yes, traditionally all these fuels have some sort of an ash residual. Where's that going? It's going to the landfill, except for with us. It's folding back into the cement product. As many know, it can be used to colorize the cement. When we walk down sidewalks, we see different colors of cement, meaning different aesthetics and whatnot. But yes, 100% of our ash product ends back inside the cement product. There is no waste whatsoever. Thank you for asking that.
Any more questions? Okay, well, I have one quick question for you guys. So we heard quite a lot about sustainability and circularity, but one of the things we didn't hear a lot about was a little bit more on the ISCC designation and why that's so important. So Dan, can you expand on the ISCC Plus certification and why that's important?
The ISCC Plus certification is a certificate system where you can transfer the certificates around. Like, for example, we're going to crack the oil down Louisiana and do the carbon certificate transfer up to our Pennsylvania plant. That's no different than what has been done out in the pulp and paper industry for many years. The same with electricity. You can go in a local mall here and buy windmill generated electricity, even though you may be 1,500 miles away from that windmill. It's the exact same thing. It's an accounting system, being able to account for those electrons or be able to account for that carbon molecule. So it's intertransferable.
And so just a little bit expansion on that. What he's saying is everything within the ISCC Plus certification is based on LCA, and it's also based on having chain of custody. So it's very strongly held, and so you can really see the circularity, and it's very open, and it has to be an open process to make that certification process happen. All of you guys have been charging in a very difficult field where it's hard to get money, there's expensive equipment, there's long lead times. What is the thing that each of you are most proud that you've overcome in this industry?
Well, one of the things we're trying to do with the MYT is just to bring it onto market and let the people know what can be done with solid waste, bring it out in there and trying to go up against, we've been doing this for 20, 30 years. We're going to continue to do what we've been doing. We know it, we like it. And they're not, some people are not really looking at sustainability, current carbon problems, greenhouse gas problems that are taking place, and not looking at the whole picture and what's available out there. Time is moving on. There's great technologies out there, we've heard a lot of them today, that are there to really move things forward and let people open up to see what's new out there, and it's available out there. So not just MYT, other things as well.
In a broader statement, I think, with no specifics in mind, I think I and my teammates have enjoyed forming teams that have a clear mission to work with various parties, and as you can see, in a very, very complex, both technical and commercial and social political environment today, and coming up with a resolution of accomplishing the mission where, in effect, everybody's working hard to be sure that all, that is, all of the stakeholders are happy and satisfied with the outcome and happy to share it with all the participants. And it's just that simple.
You used the word, you asked what we were proudest of. I want to answer your exact question. I don't want to talk about anything but that. Okay, New Cycle Energy, what we're proudest of? Two things, no question about it. Our two sets of constituents, as I said, and I hope at least 2/3 of you accept my invitation to come visit our plant and see the hardest working team in show business. That's what I'm proudest of, is the team in this company. I mean that from the upper management, our general manager of our plant, Jose Tirado, one of the most experienced industrialists in the state of Florida, to our CFO who lives in Colorado, to our management who is here today. That's what I'm most proud of. Second thing, though, I'm most proud of, secondly, absolutely, the support of America's companies and institutions and cement manufacturers and electrical power generators who have come to understand that we might actually be doing something of value and that we might actually be able to, as my turned 28 yesterday son said to me about 2 years ago, "My God, Dad, you ran companies in New York that did such cool things. I made television for 30 years, but you never did anything good." And that I'm also very proud of, that we are involved in something that might actually be, it's incredible. It's a capitalist venture that might have societal value. That's quite incredible, and that's why I feel so lucky. Okay.
Well, one last round of applause for these amazing environmental capitalists.